All right, yo, I built a new miter saw station. You want to see how I did it? Stick around.
Okay, here we go. Like all cabinet jobs, it always starts with breaking down your sheet goods, and a track saw is the perfect tool for the job. So that's what I'm doing here, just getting all of my sheets broken down to rough measurements before I bring them over to the table saw and get them cut to their final measurement. And just referencing my cutlass here to make sure I'm cutting everything correctly. And I like to keep it all organized by leaning it all over the perimeter of my garage. That way I can keep it organized and understand where I'm at. And after getting everything cut to its final dimensions, it's time to move on to shelf pin holes. It's good to do this before you assemble your cabinet. It just makes it a lot easier. And I've had this little Craig shelf pin jig for quite a while now, and I probably should buy more. I know you can connect them together, just make it go a lot faster, but I don't know, this thing has just worked flawlessly ever since I bought it, I don't know, 5 years ago or so. So if you're in need for a shelf pin hole jig, this Craig one does work quite well. And just a quick sand and knock down some of the rough edges before I start assembly. And I am going to use pocket holes to assemble these cabinets, as you can see. I'm using my Craig K5 pocket hole jig. I don't think they make this one anymore. They do make a newer version now, but this one has worked great ever since I bought it. I never felt the need to upgrade to the newer one, so I probably won't until this one fails. I also like to use these pocket hole clamps while assembling my cabinets. They just hold the pieces together and just make it really easy while you're screwing everything together. I'll leave links in the description for all of these products used in this video, and should you choose to use the link, they are Amazon affiliate links, so I do get a little kickback, and I appreciate it. Thanks. And as you can see here, the boxes are starting to come together, and I'm just getting my nailer strips attached here, so I have something to screw these cabinets to the wall. And here's another good shot of these pocket hole clamps. Like I said, they really do work well. They just prevent your pieces from sliding around while adding your screws. And with the boxes all made up, it was time to start making the doors. And nothing fancy here, I was just cutting down some sheets of plywood to the proper length. And here I'm just getting all the hinges installed, and I'm also using another Craig jig for this. They have this little jig that helps drill the 35mm holes for your cup hinges. And after getting them hung, just testing the fit a little tight, so we need to shave it off just slightly. And after giving it a quick shave and adjusting the hinges themselves a little bit, we have some proper fitment. And now we're just going to soften the edges of all the doors with just adding an 1/8 inch roundover. All right, it was time to find the studs and get these cabinets hung on the wall. I added a couple of cleats just to set the cabinets onto and used my laser here to make sure everything was level. And as you can see here, adding that cleat definitely helps out. I know you can use a French cleat system when you are installing your nailer strips, but I find this just works fine. And as you can see, I did add those middle cabinets. I didn't get any video of them, but the construction process is the same. And here's a good shot of it all starting to come together. It's time to start hanging the doors. All right, with the upper cabinets finished and in place, it was time to start modifying the lower cabinets here. I was going to rebuild new cabinets, but this entire miter saw system actually does work pretty well. And I do like the amount of drawers that it has. So instead of spending the money and rebuilding new cabinets, I decided to just modify it. And as you can see, I went on to SketchUp here and designed a new router cabinet because shop space is a premium in this shop for me. So I needed to somehow incorporate my router router cabinet system into this miter saw station. And that's what I'm doing here. And like I said earlier, once again, anytime you're building some sort of cabinets or working with plywood, I always break everything down with the track saw to its rough dimensions and then finish everything up on the table saw. And a quick shot of all the parts used for this router cabinet. And it's time to cut the toe kicks. Normally I wouldn't put a toe kick. Normally I would have the toe kick or the base of the cabinets built separately, but in this case I was butting all of this up to my existing lower cabinet, so I didn't have a choice. I had to do it this way. And here I'm building the box that will house the router motor and lift that will fit inside of the cabinet. And here I'm just drilling a hole for my cord for my table saw because this cabinet is actually going to be covering the outlet that I plug my table saw into. So I'm going to have to route that cord through it. And just adding a quick 1/8 inch roundover just to soften the edges. And here's a view of that box inside of the cabinet, just using some glue and some brad nails to secure it. And with the cabinet all put together, it was time to test the fit. And as you can see, it looks like it fits perfect. And that was annoying. As you can see, I started building these countertops, and the very first hole that I drilled, I snapped my drill bit. And after removing my broken drill bit, I grabbed a new one and continued on. All right, it was time to glue these two pieces of MDF together, and I like to use MDF as my workbench tops, mainly because it's very dense. So when you're pounding on it or anything like that, the density of it really can absorb the blows, and it just creates less vibration. And the faces of MDF are surprisingly durable, and as you'll see later in this video, if you add any type of laminate sheet to the surface of it, it actually makes it almost indestructible. And here I'm just adding some screws to use as clamps while the glue dries. And here I'm just cutting off the shims after leveling and attaching the new router cabinet to the other base cabinet. And now that the glue is dried, it was time to cut this countertop to its final dimensions. Just using a track saw paired with the table saw for this. And after cutting the MDF to its final dimension, it was time to add some edging to cover up the edges of the weaker MDF. And for this, I was going to use some hardwood or something like that, but I decided just to use plywood. It's going to get beat up, and I don't really care what it looks like. A year from now, I'm going to have so many dents and whatever else in it from running clamps and boards and hammers and just you name it into the edges of this. So I didn't want to put a lot of time and effort or money into this. So plywood it was, basically. And just some simple miters, some glue, and some brad nails. Okay, and now it's time to add the laminate. Now, there's a couple different ways you can cut laminate. You can use a scoring knife like I have here, or you can use your track saw, or you can cut it with a router. Pretty much anything that has a blade on it, you can use to cut this. Now, that said, if you do use a scoring knife, make sure that you score it enough times so that this doesn't happen to you. And before anybody says that I was bending it the wrong way, you can bend it this way. I've done it before. The main thing is you got to make sure you score it enough. I definitely did not score this enough. I was rushing, and this is what happened. But as you can see here, I am scoring it, and I believe I scored it 4, 5, 6 times or something like that. And as you can see, it bends properly and breaks right on the score line. All right, even though my sheet was broke on the edge there, I still was going to try to use it and see if it would work, basically. So I got my contact cement down on my substrate and my piece of laminate, placed a couple of strips of wood down to ensure that I could fit this properly, and started to roll it out. And after letting it cure for a little while, I pulled out the flush trim bit in my palm router and routered the edge nice and flush. And instead of a very long-winded way of me telling you that I don't like the cracks that are in it, I decided to just shorten this up and let you know I didn't like the cracks that were in it. So I decided to use a track saw, cut it off, and start over and just add a piece that has a seam there. And after adding the contact cement and getting the new piece glued in, I think it turned out fine. I do have a seam, like I said earlier, but it doesn't bother me. This is just shop furniture. Okay, now the fun stuff. I get to start cutting out the hole for the router lift, and it just so happens I did save this template that I made from my previous router cabinet. And I bought the same lift, so it's going to work out perfect. Pays to not throw things away. That is normally not like me. I really don't like clutter, and I have a tendency to throw too many things away. And routing out this MDF just makes a mess. So make sure you wear a respirator and just plan on doing some good cleanup later. And after getting most of it vacuumed up, it's time to finish cutting the hole. And you can just finish this off using a jigsaw. Just make sure you leave the lip that your router lift will be sitting on. And a little quick test of the fitment, and it fits perfect. Now to get this thing secured to the top, I'm going to be using some threaded inserts. So I need to drill a hole here, and I'm just using a drill bit for my alignment of my holes. And this portable drill press made by Milescraft is the perfect tool for this job. And once again, the links for all of the tools used here will be in the description below. I like to add some Titebond quick and thick glue to the sides of my threaded inserts just to help secure them. And with that out of the way, it's time for microjig. I am going to be using microjig's dovetail system anywhere that you would normally use T-track on a miter saw station or a router cabinet. I'm going to be using their dovetail system here. I really have grown to like this system over the years, and it's just awesome to be able to have this right on hand whenever you want. You don't have to run to the store, buy any T-track. It's one of the things that they claim, and I mean, they're right. It is awesome. It does work. So if you've never used microjig's dovetail system, I highly recommend it. Give it a shot. You might like it. And as you can see here, this is the fence for my router cabinet. I'm using their dovetail system for the stop blocks that are going to go onto my fence, and as well as the function of moving the fence in and out. You'll see here in a minute. And I might as well call myself out here for not using a mask. I'm routing this MDF part of my fences, and as you can see, it's all over my hat. This MDF stuff is not good to breathe in. Don't be like me, don't be stupid, wear a mask. All right, just putting the final touches on my fence here, making sure that everything is square and 90 degrees with the table. And I got to tell you, this thing worked out great. I did the same thing in my previous router cabinet, and it works really well. Not only does it stay 90 degrees and true, the dust collection on it is top notch as well. And I'm adding laminate to the face of my fence. I liked my fence system so much on my other router cabinet that I had. I didn't add the laminate on it, but I liked the system so much that I figured on this one, I might as well make it more permanent and just add some laminate to it for the durability purposes. And after getting the slots routed into the face of the fence, it was time to cut it in half to create the two pieces. And here's the microjig hardware that makes this entire system work. It's a very simple concept. It's just a couple of dovetail nuts, basically, that slide into that dovetail track. And then it's just a screw that screws into the threaded insert that is inside of that dovetail nut. I hope that makes sense. And here's a good shot of how I recessed the slots in the face of the fence to allow for the movement with the paired with the nut and the screw and washer. And after locking everything down, just a quick check for square, and as you can see, we are good. And here's just a demonstration of the fence in action. Now, like I said earlier, the dust collection on this cabinet is very, very good. I'm very happy with it, and this is just the process of me drilling all the holes in order to route all of the hosing and tubing for the dust collection. I did have to modify what I had there already. I knew I was going to have to do this. It was no big deal, but I did have to reroute some things. And if you've never done dust collection, the 4-inch sewer and drain pipe that you can get at the big box stores works quite well. It's just a thinner PVC pipe, and you can cut it with your miter saw, and most of the dust collection parts that you can purchase fit it quite well. And as you can see here, I'm finishing up the dust collection not only for the router cabinet, but also for my miter saw. Alright, with the dust collection done, it was time to get the router and router lift mounted onto the countertop. And this router lift, it's made by Jessam, and it does have leveling screws around the perimeter to make sure that you get a proper flush fit. And as you can see here, I got this very flush. One little tip. On the 4 corners with the bigger screws that go into the threaded inserts that you did, don't screw those in too tight. Just make them hand tight and a little snug. If you screw those down too tight, then what it does is it actually starts flexing the plate itself, and you'll have some issues with getting it flush. So just a little tip for you quick. And here's a little quick demonstration of the router in action. I gotta tell you, I know it's just an 1/8 inch roundover, but man, this dust collection, it's working great. And after getting the switch mounted and the cord situated, it was time to build some drawers and add some drawer fronts. Now, this is just shop furniture once again, so nothing fancy. I'm just brad nailing it, adding some glue, and adding some screws later. The glue is probably overkill, but why not? All right, with that done, it was time to paint. And this is actually not a paint. It's actually a black polyurethane that is made by General Finishes. And I really like this stuff. I used this on a dining room table that I built a while back. And I don't know, it just seems very durable, and I love the way it sprays.
All right, y'all, that's the video. If you made it this far, I do appreciate you sticking around with me. And as you can see, I'm not completely done. I left these cabinets up here unpainted, or just left it natural for now. I think what I'm going to do, I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do, so I just left it for now. But I think what I'm going to do is next time I have a project going on where I have some sort of clear coat sealer, either in my sprayer or just a wipe on poly or something like that, I'll probably go ahead and give this stuff a seal coat. Just for that. But basically, for now, I'm just going to leave it the way it is, and who knows, maybe I'll change my mind later. I do also have to add some handles, some drawer pulls, and door knobs on the 2 doors and the 4 drawers that I have on the router cabinet. But for the most part, like I say, I am pretty much wrapped up on this project. So that said, there's one other thing actually. I do want to build a box around this. The dust collection on this, it's okay. It's pretty much like every other miter saw that you have out there, but miter saws just, they suck at dust collection. So that said, I'm just going to build a small box around it just to try to trap some of it. But for the most part, this thing, like I said, is usable, and I'm ready to start the next project. So, but what I do want to do right now, if you are still here, I just want to give you a little rundown of how it works, especially the router cabinet. I really do like this router cabinet being incorporated into this miter saw station. I moved from a 3-stall garage to a 2-stall garage, like I've said in some previous videos. So real estate with these bigger workbench that I have and stuff is, it's getting tight, we'll put it that way. So, so being able to add the router cabinet to the miter saw station just really helped with space savings, basically. So if this is something that you're interested in, definitely steal this idea and use it. It is, so far, it is amazing. I have not built any, or I have not made any plans for this yet. I'm thinking about putting some plans together in the future, and if I do, I'm pretty busy with other things going on right now, but if I decide to develop some plans, once again, they will be free on this video. I will put the link in the description. So that said, let's just do a little rundown. I'll show you how the dust collection kind of works on the miter saw station. Phenomenal on the router cabinet, but I'll just show you this microjig dovetail track system, how I'm going to use it, because obviously I have the router plate kind of in the way a little bit, but I do have a solution for that. So come on, let me show you. Okay, like I said, we'll start here at the router cabinet. So this is the Jessom router lift that I had in my other router cabinet as well, and I just really like this one. I think for the price, you're getting a lot of bang for your buck. It's like $250 or something like that on Amazon. I'll put the, once again, all the links for all of everything I use will be in the description. And once again, it is an Amazon affiliate link, so if you use it, thank you. But this thing, it just works. I mean, it really does. I'll go ahead and this thing's pretty tight right now, so just got to kind of give it a little bang every now and then. But I mean, it's so smooth, the action right here of raising and lowering the actual router. It's just very smooth. I really like the Jessom makes. It's a quality company. They make a quality product. Anything you buy Jessom, I mean, you're paying somewhat of a premium price for it, but their machining is top notch. It's a good company. So anyway, this isn't a plug for them. Well, I guess it is, but they're not sponsoring this or anything. But anyway, you get the idea. It just works really well. So that said, let me show you. So I've got a couple drawers here. This is just a drawer for some tools. These are empty right now, actually, but eventually they're just going to house my router bits and other things that the router will actually need. Okay, that said, before I ramble too much, let me get this put back together, and I just have it round over in here, so that's all I'm going to use right now, but I'll just give you a quick demonstration. Okay, I've got the height of the bit set. Now let me show you how the fence works. So in the back here, I've got the microjig wing nuts here that are attached to those dovetail hardware things I guess, that travel inside of that dovetail group. So as you can see, the fence is completely mobile. You can move it in and out with ease. And what I'm going to do now is, let me grab a straight edge. I will get the fence lined up with the bearing. Now this is just a simple round over bit. Normally I would just use it by itself, but for demonstration purposes of how the fence works, I'm gonna use the fence. And also the dust collection does work better if you use the fence paired with the base part here. So we'll go ahead and get this part. So I'll bring it in closer so you can see that. So here's the wing nut that I'm talking about. And like I said before, it allows this fence to move completely free, and I'm able to pivot it around as needed, basically. So that said, I'm going to lock it in place like so. And now with this side locked in, I'm able to place my straight edge up against the fence here and the bearing. And then here, just to be a little dramatic, basically, I can pivot the fence off of this one and pull that away, have the straight edge on the bearing and this fence, and pull this in tight until they're both flush. And then we'll lock this one down. And if we had a larger size bit rather than this 1/8 inch roundover, all we do is loosen these screws here, and that will allow us to slide the fences in and out. Okay, and as you can see, there is no dust around. Once again, I know that's just a simple 1/8 inch roundover, and the bigger the bit, the more the dust, but there is zero dust that accumulated from making those couple of cuts. So I am happy. Okay, with that done, let me show you how the miter saw works, since this is a miter saw station, right? Well, miter saw slash router station for me, I guess, but that's a miter saw. So the very first miter saw station that I ever built, it had the whole fence all the way along and had the tape measure all built in and everything. And honestly, it got to the point where it's just like, I felt like it was just too much. I don't, for a miter saw, most of the time I'm just doing rough cuts. And even if it is finished cuts, mostly what I'm doing is I'm just taking my tape measure, marking on my board. Let's just say it's 16 inches. I'll just mark this at 16 inches. And then what I do is I'll take my piece, place it over here, line up the blade to the mark, right about there, good enough. And then I will take my stop block, move it to the board, and lock it down. And now I have repetitive cuts all the way, and I know that every single time that I cut this piece, it will be at the 16-inch mark. Let me show you. Get the dust collection going. Okay, so as you can see, I've got two perfectly cut boards, both 16 inches, and I just feel like the tape measure and the extra long fence is just kind of unnecessary. The fence really, on the miter saw, you should just be referencing the fence that is on the miter saw in the bed. So basically, if your miter saw sits just slightly above, and I'm talking, just very small amount, just slightly above the bed of or the surface of your countertops, and then you're obviously going to be referencing the fence in that regard, you're going to be fine, basically. So you don't need to build this giant, elaborate fence, in my opinion. Even if you don't do a router cabinet, I kind of like having the open space right here rather than having this fence line that completely cuts it all off. So that said, if you would rather have a fence with the tape measure built in, just do it that way. But personally, I don't like it. So anyway, let me show you. I don't know if you can see that, but the dust is just everywhere on here. It's just dust collection on miter saws just aren't great, obviously, as we all know that. And this miter saw specifically, so it's got this really high fence system, and the gap right here is kind of small. Let me show you. So like I said, the gap right here is kind of small. So what tends to happen a lot on this miter saw is all of the dust will hit this part of the fence and just bounce off, essentially. So I have taken the fences off. They are pretty easy to remove, and that has helped before, where you can actually get most of the dust directed into this mouth-wide rubber boot right here. But for the most part, it is what it is. Okay, now, the other part, this extra long stop block serves two purposes, really. So basically, you spin it around, and from there, now, obviously, that's not really a safe, distance to be, putting your finger next to that blade, but there are times where, let's just be honest, there's times where I break the rules and I completely put my fingers right there and I shouldn't be. So that said, I do want a longer stop block here so I can span this distance from here to here. So eventually I might actually put a drawer or something right here just from some pencils and some smaller things. Might do that on both sides, but that'll be future. And the other purpose, the other thing that obstacle that I had to overcome with putting my router cabinet in there is I had to have something long enough that would span my router plate. Let me show you. So like I said, I needed a stop block that would span across all the way over here. Now I wouldn't use it right here unless I was buttoned here, but basically I can swing this all the way around. Place it in this side of it, and basically I will have this stop block here that will span across the entirety of this router plate. So I'm not missing out on anywhere where I need a positive stop to make a certain cut. All right, guys, that said, thank you for watching the video. I do appreciate it, and let me know if you made it this far. Let me know if you like the black. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Is it just okay? Anyway, that's all I got. See you guys.